Puce France Live, thanks a lot to be there with us today. We're going to explore higher education in France and to talk about Sciences Po School of Public Affairs. I'm very pleased to welcome our guest today. First of all, Jenny Cottle-High.
Hello.
Your academic advisor. Just next to you, we have Eleonora Russo. Hello.
Hello.
Your assistant director. And with us, we're also with Swikriti Goyal-High. An alumni of the School of Public Affairs. Hello, Swikriti. We are also with Silvia Panini. Hello, Silvia.
Hello.
Thanks a lot to be there with us. You're a student in the dual degree in Sciences Po. We're also with Simon Collet. Hi, Simon.
Hello.
Thanks a lot to be there with us, student in Public Policy Master. And we're also with Jad Eltal. Hello.
Hi.
You're an alumni of the School of Public Affairs. You can ask all the questions that you have in the different chat section if you're watching us. And we're going to begin this lab with a quick presentation. Eleonora, can you talk about the School of Public Affairs and present it?
Sure, thank you, Guillaume, and thanks for inviting us. We're very happy to be here today. So the School of Public Affairs is one of the 7 graduate schools in Sciences Po. Sciences Po is a leading research university, which is actually ranked second QS ranking for politics and international affairs, international studies. We welcome around 2,200 students in our school coming from 60 different countries. So we have around 30% of our students that are non-French students, so international ones. The diversity of the student bodies is not only about their origins, so where they are from, but also about their backgrounds. We have students that previously studied law, economics, political science, but also international relations, sociology, history, literature, engineering, pharmacy, and we also have medicine. We also have a very diverse faculty, which is for us a key point for the School of Public Affairs. So again, not only about their background, we have researchers and professors coming from European and international universities, even outside the European Union, but also about what they do. So around 50% of them, they are researchers or professors, either in Sciences Po or in other leading universities in Europe in the world, and the other 50% they are professionals, so practitioners. We welcome civil servants from French and French and European institutions. We have managers from the private sector. We have ministers. So we really have all different kind of backgrounds. And I think we will go back on this point later when we present the program. This is really reflected into the richness of our curriculum.
That's really interesting. Can you, Jenny, talk about the different masters that you offer?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So we have 2 main master's programs that form our biggest master's programs at the school, a master in public policy and a master in European affairs that take place over 2 years. And within those masters, students choose from among 11 policy streams that we'll go more in depth into. And then we also have 2 master's programs in 1 year, a master in public affairs and a master in political arts. We also have training programs for the French civil service exam and the European civil service exam.
And how long do these different masters last? You said 2 years or 1 year?
Exactly. So our core master's programs last 2 years full time. They can be taken in French or in English, or even a mix of both, depending on the language level of the student. And then, of course, we have our 2 masters in 1 year as well.
And in which languages are they taught?
Yes, so as I said, some of them are taught in English, some are in French, but students can also take classes in French or in English if they have the high enough level in each language as well.
And what are the different accreditations of the masters?
So students who graduate from our 2-year master's programs hold a master's degree that's recognized by the French state.
We're going to explore a little bit the background of the different students. For instance, Sylvia, what did you do before joining the School of Public Affairs of Sciences Po?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. Actually, exactly my background led me to Sciences Po because I had a very theoretical background. I studied international relations and diplomatic affairs in Italy at the University of Bologna, and I did 1 year of Erasmus in Germany. So I wanted to put it concretely, so to say.
Simon, what was your background before joining the program?
Hello, yeah, thank you very much for inviting me today. So I did my high school in France, and then I moved to Canada to do a bachelor in political science at Montreal University, with a very theoretical international security frame. And as Sylvia, I wanted something really concrete for my master degree.
That's the key idea. We're going to talk about the program, maybe to know how concrete it can be. Eleonora, can you describe a little bit the pedagogy of the different masters?
Sure. So first of all, the main idea of the School of Public Affairs compared to other schools in Sciences Po is that it's built on two main pillars: the master and the policy stream. So as Jenny said a little bit earlier, we have two masters for 2 years program. So this is what we will mainly concentrate to get today because of our public. So we have the Master in European Affairs and the Master in Public Policy. They're quite different in terms of size. So the Master in Public Policy is the biggest one with around 700 students, slightly less. And the Master in European Affairs usually has something between 140 and 150 students every year. And then we have 11 policy streams. So when a student applies to the School of Public Affairs, not only they have to choose a master, but also already one of those 11 policy streams that I will list so that eventual applicants will know more. Administration publique, which is only in French, sécurité défense, culture, which is also taught in English with culture, policy and management, santé or global health in English, digital, new technology and public policy, energy, environment and sustainability, but also management and public policy and public affairs, politics and public policy, social policy and social innovation. And those are really the 10 streams that are common to both masters. And then we have one different policy stream, which is Europe in the World, as the name said by itself. It is only linked to the Master in European Affairs, and it is a little bit special because students follow their studies not only in the School of Public Affairs, but also in PSIA, so for the policy stream courses. So to go a little bit more in depth in terms of program that students follow, it is a progressive pedagogy. So the courses last for 3 semesters, the first, the second, and the third one. The fourth semester is what we call outside Sciences Po, but I think we will go back on this point. Students usually do either an internship or an exchange or master thesis. But for the 3 semesters, students will first start with the basics. So they will have the fundamental courses for the Master in Public Policy, so public economics, policy analysis and policy evaluation, governance, or for the Master European Affairs, more focused, obviously, on European affairs, with law and political system of the European Union. And slowly they have less courses in terms of fundamental master courses and a larger choice. During the different semesters, they follow also the courses of the policy streams, and there is a progressive specialization through elective courses that students can choose among hundreds every semester.
And you also have some innovation in the way you teach and in the way the student can learn the different knowledge that they need to have when they graduate.
Exactly. So we're also very proud, and it's one of the unique aspects of the School of Public Affairs, to host our policy lab. And as part of our policy lab, whose goal is really to give hands-on, concrete experience to students to face real-life public policy challenges. And so within the Policy Lab, we have several different programs. For example, our Public Policy Incubator, which gives students the opportunity to work with an external partner organization on a challenge that they're facing. And these partner organizations range from private companies, international organizations, government ministries. And so that's a really exciting program. We also have 2 certificate programs, one of them focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN Agenda, and another one on gender equality and public policy. And all of these programs also give students the opportunity to come up with an innovative solution to a public policy challenge. And in addition to these optional programs, all of the students within the School of Public Affairs in both the Master in Public Policy and the Master in European Affairs have to follow a case study course. And again, this is a case that has actually happened, and the students are led by the professors to represent different stakeholders who took part in these cases. So these are all different examples of how students have this opportunity to work on public policy in a very concrete way.
Sweekriti, you're now an alumni of the program, but can you describe a little bit the memories you have from the different classes you had and the different projects? Can you talk about that?
Hi, firstly, thank you so much for having me for this event. I would like to talk specifically about 2 of the courses that made a big impact on me during my time as a student. First was the Global Inequality and Sustainability class by Lucas Chancel. I think this was one of my favorite classes that I've had for both my undergraduate and during my graduate times. This class was a great balance between challenging me and also stimulating me at the same time, which made me think a lot about the subject itself. So this was one of the great classes that I would recommend that everybody who is coming for this policy stream to opt for. And another class that I really cherish is the anti-discrimination policy course, which was during my last semester, and quite an intense course, I would say. And also the professor is quite knowledgeable, so you always have to keep up with what's happening in the class, and you always have to be ready with your P readings. So these 2 classes for me were really exciting.
That's really interesting. Jade, now that you are a graduate, how do the different classes that you followed help you with your professional life?
Thank you so much for the question, and thank you for having me today. So I graduated around a year ago, and I remember one class that I took. It was called Organizational Change and Public Decision Making, and it was one of my specialized courses in the Management and Public Affairs stream. And that course was taught by a French civil servant. His name is Clément Lacoué-Fogère, and he just essentially taught us how governments should work in terms of bureaucracy. And that really helped me in my job now. Now I work at a nonprofit here in Canada. I'm in Toronto. And just the idea of how you think of systems and organizations really did help me a lot. Even though that was from a government setting, I find myself applying those lessons in the nonprofit sector, which is really cool. And thanks to Sciences Po for that.
That's really interesting. Eleonora, sorry. What is the balance between practical and theoretical courses?
Yes, so as I was saying, one of the strengths of the School of Public Affairs is this the fact that there are both faculty members but also practitioners who teach in the school. So the idea is really to give the fundamentals in the different disciplines to students, which is even more essential considering the fact that they're coming from so different backgrounds. But then the practitioners come through the electives, but not only, also through the policy stream classes and courses in studying, particularly from the second semester, to really make and give an application to what the students learn in the more theoretical classes. So this balance is done through the teachers, but also so who's teaching the different courses, but also as Jenny said, for example, with the case studies that are a key module for our students. But also through different events. For example, something that is very important for us is that depending on the policy stream, students have the chance to talk to practitioners and policymakers of the different fields. We hold every semester around 3 to 5 seminars for science and politics of the planet, for example. And this is really just to give an example where the scientists and policymakers are challenged by our students to really understand how this dialogue between science and policy making shall be made, which is something that is absolutely key for topics such as sustainable development or environmental issues.
And Simon, how does a day in the life of a Sciences Po student in the School of Public Affairs looks like?
Well, it's pretty tough because last year, because of COVID, there was a lockdown, so we were at home the whole day. But nowadays, it's really intense. There are many courses, maybe around 20 hours per week, and there's a lot of work to do homeworks. But there's also so many events organized by Sciences Po or by the different associations of Sciences Po, and it's really hard to choose which one actually I want to participate.
Because, and we're going to talk about it, that student life is something really important at Sciences Po, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Before that, maybe we can talk, Eleonora, about the projects and the projects related to the professional world. How does it work for the students?
Absolutely. So one of the really important part for us is to help students to find their way in their path in terms of professional goals in life. So this is something that is done through the different semesters. So it starts already with the first semester with meetings and career roundtables, and to really give the chance to students to understand what are the different careers that can be done after Sciences Po with the studies that they are doing. And then in terms of really professional experience, there are 2 or 3 different possibilities that are really essential. So first, more and more students in regular programs, not in dual degrees, but in regular programs can take a gap year. So between the first and the second year of master, they can take 1 year off to really do 2 or 3 long internships to better clarify their project and to test different opportunities to see what correspond to them and better define their goals. We have the 4th semester, which is, as I said, outside Sciences Po, and one of the probably most followed options is to do an internship, really to conclude the studies with a professional experience that can lead to the career after. And something that is peculiar to Sciences Po and to the School of Public Affairs and other schools as well is the possibility for students to do the second year in apprenticeship, which is a very specific type of curriculum. So students are at the same time student and employee for companies or for public institutions. And in this case, they are 3 days per week, Monday to Wednesday, in their work. So public or private sector, and Thursday and Friday they are in school in Sciences Po to follow as the others the different courses, and this is a 1 year path. So it's slightly different compared to the regular program, but it's something that more and more students follow. So those are the, let's say, the project related to the professional world. But then something also that I think we will have the chance to discuss a little bit later is also the possibility to be followed by mentors and tutors, professional ones, during the second year. But I think we will go back on this.
Yeah, we are going to talk about that. Jenny, maybe can you tell us if it's possible for a non-French speaker or little French speaker to learn French during the different masters?
Of course. So as we said, students can come without speaking any French, but as part of their curriculum, they have to take a language course every semester. And so if a student does not already speak French, we encourage them to choose French as one of these options, because it's obviously a great opportunity to get to learn French while living in France. And in addition, those students can also take a second foreign language class. So if they are really interested in studying French while they're here and want to continue studying a prior language, they also have the opportunity to do so.
And you also propose different dual degrees, Eleonora.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have several international dual degrees. They're regular, let's say they're the usual path for 95% of them. They're first year in Sciences Po and second year in the partner universities. So we have different partner universities depending on the Master in Public Policy or the Master in European Affairs. They are from different parts of the world. For the Master in Public Policy, we have Columbia, but we also have Munk, Toronto. We have LSE for both university, GRESP, Tokyo, Bocconi in Milan, and so on. And for the Master European Affairs as well, we have in the different continents. We have FRY, we have Lee Kuan Yew, we have also University of St. Gallen, and to do not forget University of Fudan, and really many others. So we have 12 dual degrees for the Master in Public Policy and 8 for the Master European Affairs. And you can really see the different the list of the partners, but also what are the specificities of each one of them on the website.
And what is interesting is that there are strong links between the different partners. For instance, there is the GPPN. I think it's like an event organized by students from different universities.
Yes, so our GPPN, or Global Public Policy Network, so it's actually a network of 7 different universities who are also our dual degree partners that Eleonora just mentioned. And as part of the GPPN, we organize an international conference every year. Students come and participate to apply their projects and win the Public Policy Prize. We also host different events, including joint seminars. We have a GPPN blog. A Dean's Roundtable as part of the conference. So really different events that we get to host together within this tight network of universities.
We're now going to talk about the admission in the School of Public Affairs. If you're joining us, welcome. Don't hesitate to ask all the questions that you have about Sciences Po and the School of Public Affairs. Eleonora, first question about admission. What is the background required to apply to the school?
There are no backgrounds in terms of discipline, so this is something that is very specific of Sciences Po more generally. So students who come from the very different fields that we mentioned at the beginning can apply. So there are no disciplinary prerequisites. Which can be a little bit different for some of the dual degrees. So if you're interested to dual degrees, it's important that you really look to the website of the admission service to verify if there are disciplinary prerequisites that are mainly established by our partners. So what is, however, absolutely essential in terms of prerequisite is the academic excellence. So this is something that is absolutely essential for us. So it's not important what you have studied before, but the excellence of our students.
And to be very concrete, there is a minimum average of the grades that you have if you want to apply to the different masters.
Absolutely. So this is you can check students. Potential applicants can check on the website of Sciences Po in the admission page. There is a very complex but very complete chart, which is very, very clear, that specifies the prerequisites in terms of average, really in terms of grade for each one of the countries. So that is not only in terms of general grade, but it also changes a lot depending on the country the student applies from. So this is something that is students has firstly to check. Something that is important that you mentioned, Guillaume, is that if a potential applicant does not meet the requirement, the file unfortunately will be automatically non-admissible. So,
okay.
So this is something very important before applying. Check that the grade
level.
Absolutely, and this level is concerns the bachelor. So
okay.
Because we deliver a master, as Jenny said, and the average that is taken into account in terms of admissibility is the one from the bachelor studies.
And next, when you know that you have the good background and the not background but the good level to apply, what are the different steps for the application process?
The other important thing that seems obvious but is not so obvious is to verify the type of procedure that must be followed. So something that is important is that we do not consider the nationality of the student, but the nationality of the diploma that is held by the student. So there are three main procedures. There is the international one, which is the procedure for students who hold a degree outside France, even if they are French nationals. And then there is the French procedure for those holding a French diploma, and the dual degrees. So for dual degrees, it is a different path of admission because it is done with the partner university. Something very important to keep in mind is that it is possible to eventually apply to one regular program and the dual degree if the student is interested to both opportunities. So this is something that is possible.
So that's the first step, being aware of the different procedures that exist and checking and using the right procedure. Then you have to write a cover letter, I think, and you also have some oral examination and interview?
No, this is the oral part is for the French procedure, not for the international one. It is for only one dual degree, so that is slightly different. But generally, the international procedure and the procedure for dual degrees is done through the website of Sciences Po, and this is something important. So it's really one specific platform of Sciences Po that must be used. There are different things that are asked. So everything that is, let's say, more administrative. So the ID, the diplomas, previous diploma, the transcript, and so on. But there is also very important, as you said, Guillaume, the cover letter. So the motivation letter is really one of the key elements of the application, and something that is very specific to the School of Public Affairs because of this special structure that that we explain in the master and policy stream, is that the applicants must explain why they wish to enter into our school, and for the master and for the policy stream. So there are two motivations that must be made, and then there are also the references. So two academic references and eventually professional ones that are also very important. So something that, a little tip, if I may, is that sometimes it takes a little bit long to obtain the reference from your professor. So don't wait the very last minute to ask, because this is also something that is absolutely important. And then, of course, the application must be fully completed. So if there are elements missing, for example, the language level or transcript or some of the key parts, then the application will not be declared admissible. So will automatically be rejected. So really pay attention to wait to have completed all the documents before completing. Really click the complete button in the application form.
Sylvia, what would be your advice in order to have a successful application, and especially with the cover letter? What did you put in your cover letter?
Indeed, it was quite of a long process, so to say, because being a double degree student, I had to write my motivation letters both in English and in German. So first of all, I would say choose your reference letters writers, so the professors or the practitioners that write them for you in a very specific and punctual way. For instance, I asked a professor that I had in Germany because I was applying for the master in Germany, so it was quite clever, smart as a move. And in the motivation letter, definitely underline also your motivation, but your extracurricular passions and engagements a lot. I guess this is a part that allowed me to get into the dual degree, because I showed that I had a very strong motivation combined with professional and volunteer experience in the field for which I was applying.
And what is the calendar for the application procedure, Eleonora?
Yeah, so for the regular program, the deadline, the very final deadline is February 27th. But something important is that we are on rolling admission, which means that there are different commissions. So if students apply earlier, it is possible to have the answer earlier than after the end of the procedure. So this is something very important, and something also in line with what Sylvia was saying is that if an applicant decide to apply both for a dual degree and a regular program, is the earliest one of the deadlines that apply. And also the last very important point is that even if it's the 27th of February, the final deadline, there are specific deadlines for the scholarships. So this is something that is particularly also important for Campus France because there are deadlines, for example, for EIFEL, but also for scholarships such as the BOUTMI, which is a Sciences Po scholarship. They are a little bit earlier. So it is very important if you want to have chances to have a grant, and those grants to verify the deadlines. So really take time to go on the website and check all this.
Jenny, what are you exactly looking for in the student application forms? What are you trying to see in terms of qualities, for instance?
Sure. So I would say that there are three main areas that we look at when we evaluate an application. So the first, as Eleonora emphasized, is that we're going to look at your academic performance. So having an outstanding academic background is important. And the second main area is your professional experience, whether that's internships or extracurricular activities during your undergraduate degree or volunteer work, but getting to know a little bit more about you and your background outside of the classroom. And then the third main big area, again, is this motivation letter or personal statement, because that's really the opportunity that we have to get to know you a little bit better, to really understand your motivation for joining the program, to show that you've understood what our program is there to offer you, and also what you're hoping to bring to the cohort. And then finally, how that's really connected to your professional goals and what you're hoping to achieve after the master's degree as well. So those are, I think, three big points. And then finally, maybe one note about the references too. We get a lot of questions about what type of academic reference we should have. And our advice usually is that it's most important to ask someone who knows you well. So even if it's a professor from a field that seems unrelated to public policy or European affairs, it's always better to have a professor that can write a more personalized reference, and that really helps show the coherence of your application overall.
Simon, maybe a question that might have the people watching us today is how to ask a teacher for a reference. What did you do concretely? You went to your teacher? Was it teachers that you know pretty well? How was it for you?
Yes, so I choose the teachers that knew me the best. Especially, I wrote a thesis on the French army, and the teacher that was following me chose to write me a letter. Yeah, it's really important, as Eleonora said, that the teacher he has to know you in order to make a good letter.
And Jenny, we know that it might sometimes be complicated for the students, the steps after the admission, once they get their letter of admission, once they know that they're going to join Sciences Po, they have multiple steps to come to France, such as the visa procedure, finding a house, etc. How do you help them with all these procedures?
Of course. So we have a range of student services, all parts kind of housed under our student administration department, but that includes a specialized visa office to help students prepare their visa, remind you of the deadlines that you need to respect to start applying for the visa and make sure that you can arrive smoothly in France. We also have services to help with housing, so we don't specifically have campus housing since we're in the heart of Paris and really a city campus, but we do have a student housing office to help you find an off-campus apartment. We also have, during the orientation week, programs to help you set up a French bank account, also helping you set up health insurance, really different services like this as well, all part of the orientation and welcome weeks and campus tours that we have at the start of the semester.
We're now going to talk about student life, and there is something new at Sciences Po in January, a new campus. We have a little trailer to discover the campus, to know more about the spirit. We will talk about that just after, because it's really interesting, the campus directly in the cities. But we are first going to watch this little video, and we will be back just after that. You're still watching Campus France Live. Thanks a lot to be there with us. And we're still exploring the Sciences Po School of Public Affairs. We've just watched a little trailer to discover the new campus. Eleonora, can you describe the life at Sciences Po?
Yes, absolutely. So it's a vibrant life, I would say. So beside courses that we already talked about, there are so many different events that students can participate. They're organized by schools, by all the different schools, but also by associations. And so we have students have more than 200, I think, associations. So really it is possible to find the one that you're interested in. There are sports association, cultural ones, there are debating associations, but also human rights, defense, security, economics. There are some that want to promote entrepreneurship of students, protection of environment, but also media, and more generally peer groups and groups really to meet other students. And then we have one specific association of our students of the School of Public Affairs, the AEAP, so the Association of Students of the School of Public Affairs. They organize so many different things. So something that is important is that both masters and each one of the policy streams are represented in this association, so that there is at least one rep for each one of the masters and streams. And they organize many different things. So they organize conferences, but also network events. They go out for lunch or for drinks with also alumni of the school. They organize a gala as well every year. And they also, for the Master European Affairs students, organize every year a very fun and interesting field trip to Brussels that is important to build a court spirit, but also to give this idea of what can be done in the European affairs later on. And then there are conferences organized by Sciences Po, by high-level speaker, Nobel Prizes, but also chef. We have classes outside also Sciences Po, sometimes film screenings, and really so many different activities that help to build this spirit of cohort to the master, but also to the School of Public Affairs and Sciences Po more generally.
Jad, can you tell us the memories that you keep from the years that you spend at Sciences Po?
Absolutely. So I have two stories to share. The first one was I was part of AEAP that Eleonora just explained about. I was the Management and Public Affairs representative for my stream. And it was a really fun time getting to know students from other streams, but also for myself organizing events for my own stream. The Management and Public Affairs stream, I think Jenny would agree, is one of the smallest ones. In my year, we had around 20-25 students, and most of them were international students. So it was really nice gathering together just for, drinks, parties, but also with the alumni, the very small alumni of the program, as well as different networking events. And then the other memory that I have that's not attributed to a class is the Global Public Policy Network competition, GPPN. My group and I were selected as one of the Sciences Po delegates, but of course, due to COVID-19, we weren't allowed to attend that year. But nonetheless, it was a really fun experience because we got to apply what we learned in the classroom to this real life policy situation and case study, and just start analyzing the different solutions and wondering where things can go wrong and things can go right as a government policymaker. It was really, really interesting as a simulation, and we got a lot of support from the Sciences Po administration.
Maybe we can talk about the different events that there are on campus. Sylvia, can you describe the different events that you had the opportunity to follow while studying?
Unfortunately, last year was just online, so to say, but the experiences and the events were anyhow incredible. And I'm really underlining the word incredible because I couldn't believe that they could have been so interesting, and also that they would have created a sort of feeling of community, even though it was completely online. And I was also representing my policy stream, Europe in the Word, in the AEAP. So we had the chance to organize some events on the specific topic of Europe and the European Union in the Word in particular. I had the chance to participate to many other conferences and debates that were organized by other associations in the school, or also events that were hosted by Sciences Po itself with important speakers.
And let's talk maybe about the different accommodation on campus. Jenny, do you have a campus? Do you have accommodation? How does it work for the students?
Sure. So as I mentioned a little bit previously, we don't have specific on-campus housing at Sciences Po because we have this great luxury of being in the heart of Paris, in the city center. So we have our buildings on our campus, but we don't have on-campus housing. But we do have a student housing department to help you find off-campus housing. And we also have links with student residencies like the Cité Universitaire.
Okay, and for instance, Simon, where do you live? Do you live in a partner accommodation, or did you find an apartment in the private locative part? How did it work for you?
No, I found an apartment by myself because it was a friend of mine who gave me the tip.
And the first way to learn how to network. How much, Jenny, does it cost to study at the Sciences Po Paris School of Public Affairs?
Yes, so depending on your background and where you're coming from, if you are a European student, tuition is calculated on a sliding scale from 0 to 18,000 euros per year for graduate programs. If you are coming from outside the European Union, then you pay 18,000 euros per year as tuition fees. However, we have almost, I believe, around 30% of our student body that is fully subsidized, so that pays zero in tuition fees per year. And we're really proud of this number, and we want it to grow every year to really have as many students have the opportunity to study at Sciences Po as well, and have strong financial aid programs.
Sukriti, when we come from another country, that might be difficult to change the country where we live, to have new habits, and sometimes Paris can be a little bit difficult in the mind of the student. Did you have some fears before joining the school, and how did it finally go?
I think I was quite naive without having any fears. I was definitely very excited to come to Paris, but I should have had a few more fears, especially of the language, I would say, because I came in as someone who knew absolutely nothing in French. And I think it would have been really helpful if I got started already before coming to Sciences Po to learn a little bit of French. But apart from that, I think getting a lot of help from Sciences Po is always helpful, because you can just write one email and then you'll have some body that will help you out either with housing or with your banking or with your health insurance. So that way I found a lot of help from Sciences Po.
We're going to talk about the professional work during the studies and after graduating. With this first question for you, Eleonora, is it possible to do an internship during the master?
Absolutely. So there are different opportunities. The first one that is absolutely not compulsory, but is a possibility, is to do a part-time internship during the studies. Often we suggest to do not do it in the first semester, particularly for students that firstly arrive in Paris and need to adjust to a new city, a new system, and to Sciences Po. But it is something that can be absolutely very interesting, particularly for slightly later, second and third semester. So their part-time internship, so the priority remains studying, but it is possible to, let's say, complete through a internship that is linked to what students actually do in their master, in their policy stream, and their part-time. Then there is the possibility, as we said, to take a gap year that is more and more followed, particularly by international students. And gap years internships can be done both in France, in Europe, or elsewhere in the world. So it is really possible to do it depending on your projects and your interest. Then there is the possibility to do a internship as fourth semester option. So we said 3 semesters are of classes, and 1 semester, the last one, is outside classes. And this is a long internship that shall help students to better integrate the work world afterwards. And the possibility that I quickly mentioned earlier that is more followed every year, that is the apprenticeship, for which there is a level of French which is required, because being in Paris, most of the companies and institutions that hire students require to have a good level of French. But this is also interesting in terms of, first of professional experience, but also in terms of financing their studies, because the tuition fees are taken in charge by the employers. And something that I want to stress is for us, the internship and the professional experience is something that is a crucial part of the experience and the academic experience that students have. So it's something that must be linked to the studies, and this is also why the final examination, the Grand Oral of Sciences Po students, is linked in a more theoretical way to what students have done. So really this idea again of linking practice and theory is since the beginning through the curriculum and arrives until the end with the Grand Oral.
Jad, maybe can you describe the job opportunities that you had during the studies, like maybe internship if you did it or apprenticeship, and that you had after graduating? How did it go for you?
Absolutely. So I did the dual degree with the Monk School of Global Affairs. And so in between the first year at Sciences Po and the second year at the Monk School, you have to do a summer internship. Because of COVID, a lot of the internships got canceled, but I worked at a policy lab here in Toronto where we looked into the COVID-19 economic closure policies, and we were analyzing them across all the OECD countries. So that was during my time as the dual degree student. In my second year at the Monk School, I did an internship with the Canadian Permanent Mission at the United Nations. And so that was a really cool experience for sure. And then now, after graduating from the dual degree, I work at a think tank here in Toronto called the Canadian Arab Institute. It's a nonprofit, which just goes to show how in this degree you can go anywhere from government to nonprofit to the private sector. It really is a versatile one.
Mm. And for you, Sweetie, how did it go during your studies and when you graduated?
So during my studies, after I finished my first semester, I was starting to look for internships. So during summer, even though it was not a mandatory internship, I chose to do an optional one. And after finishing my third semester, I did my internship at OECD. And I think these two internships have been really crucial because these internships go ahead and form your opportunities for your final job as well. And right now, I'm currently not working, but I'm hoping to start working after a few months. I'm currently in a break. But I think it's very crucial for any student to do as many internships as they can during this period, because this is what forms your very strong network for your future jobs.
Mm. How do you help students to find internships, Eleonora?
We help them a lot. We help them first through a career news that is published every week. And we have one person in the School of Public Affairs who's really there, and the main job is to help students and to find internship jobs and build their careers. And she works, of course, with the Career Center, who does a fantastic job for all Sciences Po students. So first of all, a publication every week on internships, but also job opportunities and apprenticeship. We have roundtables with alumni, but also with professionals and practitioners of different sectors that are on different themes. We have at least one per policy stream every year, so that students can really see what are the different opportunities out there in the world. We have career breakfast that are on smaller, let's say, format, with employers arriving already with different type of opportunities, and students can do this first link and sort of a first interview. We have different forums, so different fora that are organized either by the School of Public Affairs or, in most of the cases, together with the career service of Sciences Po. So we really have really a lot of different options. And then something that is very interesting for students of the Master European Affairs, but not only, is that we have an EPSO ambassador. So they are for the European career. That can give advice on the European civil service careers, but also everything that is more around the European affairs, and can give advice on, for example, Blue Book internship and so on. And then something that is very appreciated by our students is the fact of having, during the entire second year, career mentors. This is something that is has been built in a very precise way in the last years. So we have many practitioners that know very well our school, know very well our students, and the different career opportunities that mentor maximum 20 students. And there are students that choose their mentors mentor depending on their interest and their career goals.
And you also have a career centers with a lot of tools to help them find good opportunities after they graduate.
Absolutely. So we have a center that helps for every possible step of the building a career. So first, he helps understanding how to do a CV, which is something very important, particularly for international students writing a CV eventually in French and for French companies might be challenging. So all the tools and tips are given, and there is a real review of CV that is made, but also in terms of let's say workshops on how to present yourself in 30 seconds, how to do an interview, a job interview, to also understand what the different actors, key actors in France, in Europe, in the world. And they organize a lot of that are very much appreciated, with a lot of institutions and companies that propose job offers, and they do almost really a tailor-made counseling to each one of our students. And if the students, which always hope it doesn't happen, but if there are problems, for example, during the internship, really the objective is that students are not left alone. So the career service, but also the School of Public Affairs are there to eventually discuss with the employer, negotiate, and really help and accompany students in moments that can be a little bit more challenging.
Jenny, what careers can your students have? Where do they work in general?
So our students really work in a wide range of sectors upon graduation. So about 40% actually work in the private sector. So even though we're the School of Public Affairs, more and more students will choose to work in the private sector, or will go between the public and private sector, because there are so many more links forming between the two. And about 18% work internationally outside of France. And then beyond that, it's really a wide range from public sector, government affairs, to private sector, consulting or auditing, international organizations, think tanks, research, but also in communications or culture, education. So it really can go in a lot of different directions depending on their interests and their background.
And what are the average salaries?
So the average salaries of all of these together is about 39,000 per year.
Simon, what do you want to do after graduating? Do you already know what kind of opportunities you will be looking for?
So right now I'm preparing an internship at the military staff in Paris for 6 months. And then I'm applying at Saint-Cyr Military School to become an officer in the French Army. And well, this is a long-lasting job, but maybe after that I could see myself working for maybe an industrial company such as Airbus, but I'm still thinking about it.
And you have a long path before that for you, Sylvia. Do you already know what kind of job opportunities you will be looking for after graduating?
As I think a vast majority of my fellows in the policy stream of European affairs, I have the dream of getting into the European institutions. And on this point, I also wanted to underline that in Sciences Po, we had the chance to follow a preparation course for the concours, for the test that the European institutions organized to get in. So we also had the chance to try to give a try to what we could do most potentially in some years. So definitely public sector for me.
And maybe one day being member of the parliament, that could be the idea.
Who knows? Actually, maybe yes.
It's interesting because I think politics is something really interesting at Sciences Po, and when you're doing public affairs, you have in the school some famous politician that went there. So it's one of the possible career that we can have. We're now at the end of the live session. Maybe to conclude, it would be interesting to have a little conclusion by each of the speakers by maybe telling some words, not something too long, but what would be your last advice advice for the people watching us today. Let's begin with you, Sikriti. What do you want to say to the future student of the School of Public Affairs?
Thanks for the question. One final advice I would give is for the application phase is to be really genuine with your application phase. Do your research, and whatever you mention in your application, be really true to that. And once you are at Sciences Po, don't forget to have fun because it will be very hectic. But always remember to have fun because it's just 2 years of education that will last.
That's really interesting. Jad, what would be your last advice for the people watching us today?
So my last piece of advice would be make sure to speak and network with your professors. They are mostly going to be practitioners, really well known in their fields, and just get to know them more. People are so willing to help you out as a Sciences Po student. So don't be afraid and practice your elevator pitch, your 1 minute, tell me about yourself.
Simon, what would be your last advice?
Get in an association. There are so many, and it's as my fellow friend said, it's the best way to create a really nice network and meet really nice people.
Sylvia?
I would say be curious. I know that the time management is and the time schedule is very tight. There are a lot of courses to do, a lot of exams, but explore. There are many interesting people, many interesting opportunities, associations, as Simon said. So be curious and explore.
Jenny, what would be your last advice?
Yes, so kind of along the same lines that we just heard, but I would say really take advantage of all of the opportunities that are offered to you during the 2 years of the master's. So not, of course, focusing on your classes and having a very dedicated time in your studies, but also all of the optional programs, conferences, certificates, all of the networking opportunities that are available to you. So don't forget to branch out also and enjoy that time and get to meet and speak with as many people as possible.
And you, Eleonora, to conclude.
Yeah, so maybe for a step before, while you're preparing your application, or even if you're wondering if you want to apply or not for Sciences Po and the School of Public Affairs, really take the time to explore very carefully the curriculum. So look at what exactly studied, open the class description to really understand what is the place, where is the place where you will be mostly challenged and enjoy in terms of studies, but also in terms of future professional experience and goals.
Thanks a lot to the six of you for having been with us today, and thanks to you for having watched us. If you still have questions about Sciences Po and the School of Public Affairs, don't hesitate to visit the website of Sciences Po and of the School of Public Affairs. And I will tell you, see you soon on Campus France Live.